Welcome to Echoes of History. I'm Holly Nielsen. For nearly 2 decades, the Assassin's Creed video games have transported players to worlds of the past, from the hot sands of the medieval Middle East to the frozen Arctic of 18th century Canada. The variety of periods, people and places of the past that have been built from scratch, in detail, is immense. But video games are also meant to entertain, and there are gaps in our knowledge of history which must be filled when creating these interactive worlds. Which raises the question, who takes on the task of designing the past for Assassin's Creed? Today I'm joined by Raphael Lacoste, concept artist and art director on the very first Assassin's Creed game, and many more since. If anyone understands the iconic look and feel of Assassin's Creed series, it would be him. Raphael, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the invitation.
So you've been involved with Assassin's Creed since the very beginning. You're kind of part of the series' genetic memory, if we're going to get cheesy with it. And, I just did, so we're going to go there. And for those of the audience who might not know, could you give us, if it's even possible, to give a kind of brief resume of the Assassin's Creed games that you've worked on?
So, yes, I've been working on the first Assassin's Creed after Prince of Persia. What happened is that I really wanted to try something different from the games. I felt like Prince of Persia was really interesting, but also very driven by level design. I wanted to do something different, so I went to the cinematic studio. And at the same time, there was a team who was already starting to work on AC1. And they were already trying the conception on that game, and I kind of joined them to work on the teaser, the first marketing trailer on Assassin's Creed. And it was really interesting since it was at the cinematic studio. And eventually I joined the team as a background designer. So I was doing the backdrops for the kingdoms, for the different cities. And when they saw the image, they felt like I was kind of needed in the production as an art director. So that was how I jumped on Assassin's Creed on the first one. And after that, there was a journey leading Ubisoft, going to work on films, to audio effects on a couple of movies, Hollywood movies. That was really interesting. I really wanted to learn from the masters on the matte painting side and concept art as well. So No Terminator Salvation, Immortals, a lot of different type of movies. And I came back to Ubisoft only because I was missing the creativity of games, and so that was the time of revelation. After that, Black Flag and Origins and Valhalla to end the journey.
I have to admit, while kind of preparing for this recording, I ended up going through your ArtStation profile and looking at all the pictures, and there's some absolutely incredible paintings there. I highly recommend anybody interested looking up your work to all the listeners out there, because it's brilliant. And there's so much variety there, and there's a lot of kind of sci-fi vistas. There's a lot of more kind of historically flavored vistas. There's so much wonderful combinations of the two. I really enjoyed the kind of brutalist castles I saw that you'd done. I thought they were brilliant. And it just got me wondering about, working for a game like Assassin's Creed and the difference between kind of drawing these kind of sci-fi vistas and these historically informed vistas, and wondering about the kind of approach between the two, how they're different.
That's interesting. I would say it's probably because Assassin's Creed to certain moments also became a job. So it was my day job, and I think what is important in your job is working with people, and sometimes it's even more important than the creative aspect, because if you work on an amazing brand because you love sci-fi, but you have a toxic team, or you don't go with people, get along with people, that's not going to be a nice journey and a good experience. So I think I was mostly interested by working with these people and the challenge of making the games, but I still wanted to create something different on the side. As an artist, I wanted to explore sci-fi and fantasy as well. So that's why I was trying to explore something different on my free time. And eventually also doing freelance, working on book covers. That's also something really interesting, because you get inspiration from the reading, and you create those images based on a story, which is pretty interesting and exciting. So I would say you can apply that maybe in the present day or the first day of stuff and even like the mythical worlds we had in Valhalla, like it was really more mythical and also like into the fantasy. So that was pretty exciting to have these opportunities, even on Assassin's Creed.
I imagine every game was different as these games grew and grew and grew, but did you have researchers kind of giving you information, or did you seek out the information yourself? How did it work when finding inspiration?
There's a really interesting evolution in the way we made the Assassin's Creed games. I think the historical aspect kind of was interesting, but could be adding kind of a difficult challenge on the creative side of things, because some people were expecting almost like a documentary when they would go to the cities. This is not what the team was aiming for. I mean, like when we created this AC1, you want to capture the essence of the place, give the emotion of the place. When we went to Istanbul to recreate Constantinople for Revelation, it was really a moving experience. Just getting in Hagia Sophia, the mosque, the church, I don't know, it switches in the time, but there's a moment of emotion because of the scale of things. You think like people actually created that place, the holy place. I think the lights has a really important role in that place. It's really something about emotions. It's not about being technical. Oh, the column is like 8 meters tall and we need to be careful with the trim that is like in this type of material. We're not scientists. We're capturing the essence of the place. We're not doing a literal copy of the locations. When we started, we really worked by doing a lot of research. We had a lot of books on Syria, for instance. But after that, we did scouting trips. So that was really interesting. For instance, when we went to Havana to recreate, the church of the main plaza of Havana, we did that also based on the photos, the reference, and also the visit we did, like on climbing the church, going on the top of the steeple and looking at the city from there. Like you had already anticipated the feeling of reaching the high points. So it's based on personal experience, taking a lot of photos, and eventually we start to hire historians to help us working on the games. But the intention is not to be, I would say, the credibility police or the literal recreation police. It's to give us ideas. And I know some games would have like, oh, there was no gutters at this time. You can't have gutters on the buildings. And like, is it important for the players? You need to think, maybe it's a climbing opportunity. Can you double check on internet? You have 2 minutes to check. That was the rule. Can you double check in 2 minutes? Can you validate that there was no gutters in Boston back in AC3? So can you double check that? If it's not verified, you can have it in the game. I think sometimes history needs to help us, give us inspiration, but it's not to be the police of the recreation of our buildings. It was really interesting to work with Jean-Claude Galvin on Origins.
Yes,
and Valhalla as well, because he's an artist and a historian. He has an amazing knowledge of the Viking era, medieval times, but also ancient Egypt. So that was a fantastic inspiration for us.
There's so many things from that I want to ask about. First of all, I really want to ask so for every game, did you go and do site visits? Did you go and visit the places? And was there a lot of parkour?
Oh, yeah. I'm not that acrobatic, but climbing on church, that's something I've been doing when I was a kid. That's not the best idea. I wouldn't recommend, but I've been doing a lot of climbing. Yeah, and also urbex, this type of stuff. But yeah, going on site was one of the best inspiration we had. The team went also to Costa Rica to capture all the sounds for Black Flag, Sound of Animals. We went to San Domingo. We went to a lot of different places to capture the essence of these locations. For Valhalla, we had an amazing scouting trip in Norway, in the Lofoten Islands. We got to see Northern Lights. We felt the scale of all these amazing landscapes, and we spent a night as well in a recreation, like a party recreation and traditional recreation of a Viking feast and dinner inside a longhouse. So yeah, that was like a very nice immersion.
Oh, that's incredible. What you said before was so true about this idea of kind of capturing the emotion of it. I think that's what a lot of your paintings and a lot of the art does, is that it captures feelings as well as the kind of actual, architecture and details and stuff like that. Doing these podcasts now and talking to developers and being a developer myself, though not on Assassin's Creed, but using history and things like that, so much of using history in games is about curating and being evocative, but then also knowing that, one-to-one is probably not a possibility a lot of the time for a myriad of reasons, particularly in a game like Assassin's Creed, where it's having to be rendered 3D and people have to climb on it, and it's a huge, and people have to locate themselves within a 3D space. It's, there's all these things going on. And in Matt's interview with a historian about the Hagia Sophia, which you mentioned, they pointed out that the building's appearance in the game is a lot closer to how it is now than it would have been at the time the game is set. It had 4 minarets in the game, and I think it would have had 2. This isn't my expertise. This is from, but just kind of, I'm really curious as to what kind of informs design decisions like that.
This is interesting. I think that that's one of the good examples where we kind of cherish what people would also expect when they see Hagia Sophia in the game. So you can go to Istanbul, you can see this awe-inspiring build. It's an amazing. It's one of the most beautiful architecture I've seen in my life. And if you have like those 2 minarets in the game, maybe that would trigger questions. Oh, why we're missing two minarets? That could be a call we could have made. Like, oh, you know what? Like, do your homework and check why it's only 2, because back in the days it was only 2. But we did a bit of homework, and all these are like creative decisions. It's not like we're not doing things by mistake. And as I was saying, it's either like bringing emotion, making sure we capture the essence of the place, or being more literal because we need to be really accurate about something, which was more the case maybe on AC2. There was like really close to reality, and also in Unity, they've been like really close to the reference. But it's more difficult because the city is still there. You can always compare one-on-one the game at sea. This is where I will talk about that maybe later, but it's a different type of challenge. But in that case, we use the 2 minutes rule we have on AC. Can you double verify in 2 minutes? Back in the days, the Google in 2010, something like that.
Yeah, it's probably slightly different now. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Hagia Sophia has in I don't know, it was 15 something hundreds. 2 minarets or 4 minarets, and it was not easy to find that information as quick as maybe today, as fast as today. So we decided that we would go for the 4, also because it looks more awe-inspiring and impactful as a landmark when you play the game.
Yeah, it's a very iconic image, and it's kind of immediately recognizable for that. And you mentioned there working with the archaeologist and historical illustrator Jean-Claude Gauvin, who created bespoke paintings for a couple of the games, Origins, and you mentioned Valhalla as well.
Yeah, as well, Valhalla, yeah.
In my teaching, I use his paintings of the Giza Plateau. Really incredible. And I was just wondering, how were these works kind of translated into the game? What's the process of having a work of art like that and then transferring it to a game world?
So yeah, that's something that was pretty new on the process, because until Origins, we didn't get any opportunities to work with him. Actually, I tried to reach out before, but he didn't answer my emails. I don't know, but I think I saw his work. I think he's from Bordeaux in France, and I got to see some of his books maybe at my parents' place, and I was really amazed by his work, and I was like, this is what we have to do, because it's historical. He's an historian, but when I see his temples, I see the orchestra, as I hear the violins. It's Hollywood. It's not just like something that feels like really one-on-one scientific. It brings emotion when I see the scale of the pylons of the Temple of Ptah. When I see it's like it gives life to the past in a way that is really inspirational and emotional, I would say. So we tried to reach out first. He didn't answer, and then we tried to get with someone else in the studio. Then he answered, and it was all in. So we got a chance to meet him in Paris. We had a small meeting with Martin Deschambault, who was the senior illustrator on the game, and we had an amazing day with him, showing him the game, getting like a lot of critical feedback. He explained, like, the streets could be larger, you can have more life in this part of the port of Alexandria, and he told us, like, for the scale of things, you guys have to. He was talking about that sense of emotion when I'm doing those watercolors. He was saying like, I'm trying to, I'm like, like we will listening to movies. It needs to be epic. It needs to feel epic. Like, and if you put yourself in the shoes of someone back in the days in 300 BC when they discovered these monuments, imagine the emotion they could have when they're coming from the countryside and they see over the fields of wheat, they see this massive, gigantic, white, blinding pyramid in distance with the golden, pyramid on the top. That must have been incredible.
Yeah, capturing that awe is so important. I think working with someone like that who is both a historian but also a creative historian, I think because understanding how balancing all these aspects is such a wonderful thing.
That was the best casting.
Yeah. I'm really curious to know how you got to Ubisoft. What was your background and your career path like for those who are interested? How do you end up becoming art director in games?
It was kind of really unwanted, I would say, like maybe a happy accident. I was working in Bordeaux for a company called Callisto Entertainment. They were working on old games such as Nightmare Creators and Dark Earth. Like I think they were working with Konami back in the days. And at the same time, I was spending some time during my weekends learning soft image and working on a personal portfolio. So I was making this image just for myself. And I was maybe one of the first to have an online portfolio with CGI image, but pretty polished, with a lot of details and lighting. And there was one set piece which was inspired by the Arabian Nights, and someone from Montreal at Ubisoft working on Prince of Persia saw that image, that very creation, and wanted to reach out to see if I was interested to become an art director on Prince of Persia. So I mean, you kind of trigger the opportunities, but that's this type of stuff. I don't think that this type of stuff would happen today, but I'm really glad it happened back in 2002, I think.
That's incredible. Just drawing this, painting this one painting, be like, oh, that works well for what we're doing. I love stuff like that.
It's like you go fishing and you just drop your line. You have like the biggest fish coming. It's so it's luck, but I think luck is always something when you have a career. But it's also how to trigger this kind of opportunities by having working hard and working on the stuff you like and trying to be different in the style you're creating.
And so we kind of mentioned it before. I know the series of episodes that Matt has just done are kind of focused on AC1 and the Crusades, but since we have you here, I can't not ask you about all the games you've worked on. And, there's kind of big difference between Assassin's Creed 1 and, a game like Valhalla. The world map in AC1 is something like less than 1 kilometer square inside, whereas Valhalla is close to 140 kilometers squared.
I think it's double these numbers.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I think it's closer to 260 square kilometers for Valhalla. Yeah.
A huge size, even bigger than that. And so obviously your responsibility as an art director working on these games, they're very different games, although they have a similar DNA. And how does your role and process evolve over time with these kind of ever-increasing game worlds?
I think we all evolve also as humans because as creative people because so AC1 was released in 2008, I think 2007, 2008, and Valhalla was 2020, so during the pandemic. So it's 15 years. It's huge. So we as artists we evolve with the tech as well, and the game was also evolving from this really oriented purely on cities and urbanism and buildings to something that was more an open world with different biomes and an immersion which is like really different. It's a journey. And we also learn from different games. I mean, we've been playing Witcher, we've been playing Red Dead Redemption, and we wanted to do something different. And I think we opened that door when we worked on Black Flag. That was the first time we had this massive open world, but it was the actual ocean, the sea of the Caribbean Sea, and we had this more linear gameplay sequence on the islands, but we had the feeling to be able to land on random islands in the open sea and have the feeling of I'm exploring the full island, but actually it was pretty self-contained, and we had those loadings for the cities, but still this feeling of really open world. And some people in the creative side wanted something similar on Origins. Some people thought, oh, that's going to be like, the magic stick of the procedural will be making the ocean is going to be the desert, and we'll have like some, random cities and stuff, and the journey between all these cities will be like procedurally made, and we don't need any artists to make all this landscape. This was like, the magical thinking, and I knew it was not the case, and it would never happen like that. And some people were a bit disappointed to realize, oh, we have to craft actually everything. I said, yes, we have to craft everything, and also because you don't want to be in a generic desert all the time and a flat land, and discover on this flat plateau some, cities popping like this. You go to Egypt and see there's the Qattara Depression, the black desert, the white desert. There's the red mountains on the other side of the Nile Delta. There's the flatlands and of the Nile Delta as well. But there are like a lot of the interesting biomes and landscapes, and that's something we want to use and make like I would say like a caricature of that in a sense that it's a 200 square kilometer playable area, but we're making this 6 million square kilometer area of the actual country of Egypt in that very place. And that was interesting because when you do the journey from the Oasis of Siwa to Alexandria, it's going to take you still like 27 minutes in the game. In real life would be a couple of hours, maybe days, but it's the sense of scale is okay for a game. But you want to have those reveals, those difference in elevation. You want to be able to climb on a mountain, have the reveal of Crocodilopolis on the other side. This is where we need to play with contrast to surprise the player and create also the desire of exploration. That's a very different journey from the games we're making only based on just city plans and urbanism. It's very different.
You can tell these games there's as much love put into the natural awe and the mountains as with the buildings. And I think that's really important, particularly from an environmental standpoint. There's something really interesting. Oh, these cities don't just exist in, a sea of nothing. They are a product of the environment around them, and the environment is impacted by them as well. And so seeing that kind of interplay is really cool and really important, and something as the games have gotten larger, I do appreciate and also think, God, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm playing, and I'm just like, oh, that is because you're kind of feeding the player through on this journey. And how does the art team then work with level designers?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how that also like evolved a lot. I do remember on AC1 I had really good time and fun times with the David Chateauneuf making the city plans. We're like basically, okay, what, we have a generic city, but now we need to place the landmarks for the missions. And the city was divided in different districts. So what we wanted to do is it was really not a one-on-one copy of Damascus, for instance. It was our version of Damascus, but we had tons of books. We didn't go to Syria back in the days, but we had tons of books. We had a lot of photos. So there was like a slightly more micro focus on the actual architecture, buildings and making the kits. It's all made with Lego blocks. And then we had the city plan, making sure that when you play the game and you unlock a new district, it feels very different from the previous one. So we thought about like thematics. So we have the district of the tanneries, like where people would be working only on with skins. They would be like working with different type of materials, and that would impact the architecture and also the style of the environment. And there's another part which is more like only shops and people importing fancy clothes and stuff like that, and that would also have an impact on the colors we'd be using in that district. And there's the more like religious district. Everything was impacted by the first idea of the thematic, and after that how we would impact the thematic with colors, the use even of music and sound. So changing districts, I still have that in mind when I was playing Jerusalem in AC1. Every single area of that city had a different sound and music. That was really, for the immersion, really interesting, and would play really well with the visual aspect of that district. So it was not only the visual stuff, but also the layouts. So with level design, we knew that we need an arena for the fight here. We need an arena to do a walk and talk, or like we need to follow someone. The street has to be interesting. So we would, like, every single design choice was made with level design, art, and also with the gameplay and the narrative as well. And after that, in the later games, when we had someone like Jean-Claude Golvin, starting from the blank page was really difficult because we're getting so realistic, and the immersion is so important that you need to make sure that when you make this interesting transition from nature to man-made, manicured nature, or countryside to farming lands, to hamlets and city, it needs to make sense. If you just draw by yourself on a blank page with no reference, it can look completely off. I mean, you lose the credibility, and hence you lose also immersion, and the player won't feel like he is in an actual real place, and that's not good for the game, for the immersion. It's really bad. So that's why someone like Jean-Claude Golvin doing blueprints of cities, showing us, exactly how Lincoln would be, how London could be back in 900s, remains of Roman architecture mixing with the Saxon buildings. All this stuff was really interesting. And how you can trickle down from the center of the city, the Roman footprints, to something that is more like Saxon and a bit more organic, and then nature coming on top of that. That was really complex, and because it's more realistic.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts there, and it's
Oh yeah.
and of course, as the games have got bigger, of course the teams have got bigger.
Oh yeah.
On a practical level, kind of how many people do you normally have on a team like that within the kind of art team?
That's pretty interesting, because if you just count level art, just in Montreal, we would have maybe 10 to 15, 18 people making environments, but we have also 4 to 8 people making characters. UI team is also a big team. We have VFX people, maybe 3, 4, 5 people. Lighting could be up to 10 people. That's only in Montreal, but then we do collaboration with other studios. We have Singapore working also on big chunks of the game, the map. They did like a huge amount of England for us, and also some of the mythical world on Valhalla, and also an immense part, like a really big part of Origins as well. They did an amazing job, really fantastic job, with Mohamed Gambuz, who is the former art director on AC2. Yeah, that's doubles and triples the team. Every time you have also Sofia in Bulgaria. They've been working on a huge part of the game. They do also like an amazing job on Valhalla. They worked on all the Wessex area and also Mythical World. So that's a lot of people.
It's a huge amount of people.
It's a huge. I don't know. Maybe we reached like up to 900 people at the end of production worldwide, probably.
Wow. And as a director, how do you manage to keep things kind of cohesive, but then also let people bring in their own kind of style? How do you manage that? How do you do your job?
Trying to like treat the people how you want to be treated as a creative. I mean, like every director is different. Some directors will be a bit more control freak. I'm not in that side. I would try to inspire the people. You need to be credible. So I think being able to produce, benchmark yourself, or do illustrations by yourself is helping you to be credible, but also to give a good direction. Sometimes just one image is worth, billions of words. So being to lead by the example and not by the image is, I think, it's the best. So I was not alone. I've been helped by amazing associate art directors on every single studios, but also on my team. I've been working with crazy amount of insane people, really with an amazing talent. So there's also people who, they grew up, with me and the team on several games. They join us, and they've been getting better and better as working on Assassin's Creed. So I would say, yeah, the job is very different from conception to delivering the game. It's like you raise a baby who is going through his teenager, and then you
send them off.
You send them off. Like my kids traveling in Europe by themselves now. My son is probably in Berlin now. I don't know, but it's. I think it's always like a journey. Like you can't say I'm going to do the same thing from conception to shipping. That's probably not the case for all the type of jobs. Some job would be like I'm do animation. I'm going to animate characters, from start to finish. But for us, like in conception, we do a lot of research. We do a lot of concept arts, illustrations. This is where I have the time to be really like hands-on on concept art for 6 months max, and after that it's pre-prod. And pre-prod, I would do validations and work on benchmarks with the associate art directors and the team. And after that, we switch to production. So this is where I play the game all the time, and I log bugs, issues, and what is not working. Sometimes do problem solving with paint overs with the team, provide references, and do the. It's like you compose the music and then you become the music director at some points.
Yeah. I know that my producer wanted to know can you explain paint over as a term?
Oh, as a term, paint over. So it could be like a really simple, red arrows and lines on a screenshot of the game. Like it's the most simple way of explaining this is not working, let's do that, and point some references.
Okay.
But most of the time, paint over is more like a new type of concept art. We're doing a concept based on a screenshot of the game. So if we have, imagine like we have the reveal of a city and we don't like the composition, we don't like the lighting, we don't like the sky, we think there's a lot of improvements to be done. We'll do a concept art, but it's the base, that the main plate, the starting point it's not going to be the blank page. It's going to be the screenshot we have on the game.
I see. Okay, so it's like kind of a later stage concept art when where the thing's already there, but you've got to tweak it a little bit.
Exactly. This is the one we do in production, and I would say like concept artists, illustrators. At the end of production, they would do like the polishing of all the concept for the art book. So it's all, and do marketing, image. So that's a full loop.
Okay, and I was going to ask, because kind of a lot of creative people will know, particularly if we're working at a big company, as you kind of get higher up and you get to kind of more directorial, managerial, do you get to do less of the actual art?
It's you have to let go a bit to give to the new, not new generation, but people coming to take on the path. You have to let go a bit of the hands-on, that's for sure, and also because you can't keep everything for yourself, so you have to be a bit generous, but also to have people grow in that. But I would say like I'm of course like on big, like the example of really big production, I'm missing a bit the hands-on aspect of doing more lighting, doing more paint overs and stuff. On AC1 I was doing the lighting as I was doing the art direction, but back in the days I would work on the lighting. Was pretty simple. I was doing like adding some omnidirectional lights, have the main lighting, and we didn't have any time of day. So there was a static time of day. That's why maybe also AC1 has this really specific type of essence in the lighting.
Yes, yeah, it has a real kind of distinctive filter to it. Yeah,
it has that, and I think it's a mix between the inspiration the team had back in the days. We wanted to have a really bold visual style for each different cities, and it was coming with a visual filter treatment inspired by the movies and Ridley Scott treatments, for instance, on the kingdom, like this type of treatment was coming from movies, I think. And after that we changed the style because we want to have a living, breathing world, and that's coming with the time of day. The evolution of every single hour is a different type of mood. Lighting is a different set piece. But I was able to do the lighting on AC1, which is impossible for me to do on the new games.
No, it sounds like there's a group of 10 people just doing that.
I don't know. Maybe we're 180 people on AC1.
Wow. It's a huge difference. So you have your concept art. You have your lovely concept art, your 2D wonderful images. How does then that become the 3D space? Do you hand it over to a 3D modeling team? Do you what's the process from 2D concept to 3D game world?
So there's a lot of different techniques I've been exploring. So for on Origins, I was doing a bit of 3D because there was such a interesting architecture to explore, such as the Temple of Ptah with the big pylons and the ramparts, and all the even Alexandria with those incredible Roman, Greco-Roman architectures. So I was doing a lot of 3D in the concept, and I was giving that as inspiration to the team to do the benchmarks of that. So they would be doing visual, I would say like a visual target based on the concept art of these environments in the game with a real-time engine, and they would place cameras, and this is almost how we sell the game, the visual direction, the art direction, but also the environment design, starting with concept art and making in 3D using the engine, and it's usually based on the concept, and we're making these environments as benchmark, but it's not the final assets we're using to make the game. So it's like different steps of creation. We do this visual target, this visual benchmark in the engine, and usually we try to see that very benchmark at the end of production to see if the game is matching the original intention. And often it's like, oh, we're good. It's matching it. It's almost the same. And sometimes the game is even better than the benchmark, which is usually the team is really happy when it happens.
So much of this conversation has been so fascinating because, you span so many games and seen, talking about this huge change in the games and change in the teams and just in the size alone. And kind of dealing with open worlds in particular, you spoke about this with Origins. You have an interesting dichotomy between, you have these spaces that are very well known, or they have a lot of historical research into them. There's a lot of information out there, but then you also have to kind of invent some places, some smaller villages, the surrounding areas, the places that do not have a lot of historical information about. And so I'm always really curious to know about the differences between working on a space that has a lot of information and a lot of research, and spaces that have potentially nothing really, or very, very little.
This is where it's really interesting to build from scratch, from the blank page. There's inspiration that is coming from the research we're making, but sometimes it's also we're using the missions and the thematic of the different areas of the map of the game. So if we do in the story, we'll be going in that place, and there's a festival. Maybe it's a village where there's always a party with the Greco-Roman people. Maybe there's an area where we need to feel a lot of the tensions between the locals, Egyptians, and Greco-Roman people, Ptolemaic people. That's going to affect a lot the visual style, but also the level design, the way we dress up the locations. I would say like the narrative, I would say the storytelling aspect of all this place is really crucial. And this is usually what we're doing is world design documents with level designers and level artists. And they would come up with presenting this to the directors with they come up with IDs, references, and we do all the validations production, pre-making everything in 3D on the world map. That's always starting from the blank page. This is what also I was telling that it's really complex when you have to recreate Paris, and you can also be in Paris, and the comparison is live. It's almost one-on-one. I didn't work on Unity, but I would say maybe the challenge is different. The challenges are more on the lighting, the composition. If you were to make a movie in Paris, historical movie, how would you do it? You would take that inspiration for the game. But what I really like is starting from the blank page. So imagine you have the city of Memphis. There's nothing remaining from Memphis in Egypt now. Only thing is hypothetical informations, historical documents, and probably remains of a wall, or like a white wall, and that's the inspiration. So it's really poetic to be able to recreate something based just on maybe there was this temple. It could be this size. The appearance would be maybe 35 meters, but you know what? With the lens we have in the game, which is like 28 millimeter, that would feel too small. So let's make double. Let's make the pylons like 80 meters. So we go more like the Hollywood way, Yeah, a lot of times. It's easier because you don't have the real comparison.
Yes, yeah. I always thought, yeah, Unity in particular, I thought seemed like such a challenge, being able to designing the streets and then potentially walking out after work and being like, okay, well, this is the here's the street. And that's really interesting. So personally, you found a lot more freedom in potentially the older settings and the settings that had a bit of kind of distance.
Yes. And also, but for England, it's interesting because in 10th century, the Viking era, there's not a lot of stuff left from that era. So we took a bit of freedom and created that interesting contrast between the Roman remains, Roman ruins, and Saxon hay houses. And it's really interesting because you have those very tiny, really organic hamlets contrasted with those huge Roman remains. And there's also the resonance of the past, which is like pretty mysterious, like this phantom, like it's the resonance from antiquity. It's really interesting actually. So we wanted to make this a bit more harsh and also romantic. So the inspiration we had for Valhalla was not just historical facts, but more like romantic painters. And take from the romanticism, even Gaspar Friedrich could be an inspiration for us, since he would be doing those Gothic ruins next to small houses. It's not the same time period at all. We know it's 19th century, but there's something about bringing the emotion through the recreation of this place, and that's really romantic. And we really wanted to pay a tribute to that, and also play with the contrast of the rawness of that time period, the violence of that time period, and we call that harsh romanticism from Valhalla.
Interesting. That's fascinating to me because I'm always fascinated by the idea of ruins and the idea of kind of the psychology of ruins and the kind of societal idea of, well, what is a ruin? Valhalla is really great for that. And the other games as well, with particularly in AC1 and kind of the blending of different architectural styles. I think sometimes I see in games that don't necessarily have a historical setting, they sometimes fall into the trap of flattening their world, of having a kind of before and after. And it's a kind of a temporal flattening, if I'm going to sound really fancy with it. But I think that because the AC games are drawing from time periods, and those time periods themselves have their own perceptions of history, and they have their own, stuff going on. I think the ruins, the Roman ruins, are really brilliant for that. And I think it's really interesting to hear you talk about the kind of 19th century romantics, because you said it a bit with talking about how film and movies influenced AC1, and you said the lighting in particular, that these games have a real reference to other depictions of the period and other artistic mediums. I think is really fascinating.
Exactly. I mean, like when we were making recreating England, we respected it. It's almost like a love letter to the variety of the country. Like some people who've just been once, or they don't really know, they would say, "Oh, the countries are just rolling hills with sheep." But you know what? When you go to Shropshire, when you go to the south, Seven Sisters, and then you go north, you do like discover a lot of variety of biomes and landscapes. It's pretty inspiring and incredible. We went to Hadrian's Wall as well. So we did a pretty interesting scouting trip in England and Norway to get this sense of variety of the landscape, but also the culture. But I was just wanted to say, like, I know we're really twisting reality when we bring those Roman ruins to London and the countryside of England. There's a big aqueduct going to the city. I don't think there's proof of that huge aqueduct, but probably, Romans would have built this kind of aqueducts. And it's not completely crazy. And we always try to have this credibility, even if the setup can be proven. But there's, where is the water coming from? It's making sense. And with the slope, it's making sense. And we still have this big aqueduct splitting the city of London, which is pretty impressive and epic, but acts also as a landmark when you play. It's a mission opportunity. It's a reach high point. It's everything you can use for the game. So we need to be creative with all these opportunities of inspiration we can find. Also, the churches, they would have those Saxon church, but it would be just hay roof, very small, like some longhouse. But as an Assassin's Creed game, you need vertical opportunities. You need to have those climbing opportunities and also reach high points. And so that's why we had these old church with towers and castles with towers as well. So we got this variety of ingredients we can use for the game, but also as call out, as beacon for a city. And that was really important for us to have this mix of really old castles, like those first, I would say, Roman castles, and also those ruins of more like ancient time, but also those first Anglo-Saxon churches as well.
Absolutely fascinating. Yeah, I could ask so many questions. It's just about that. I find it so interesting. While we've got you here, we were thinking, do we ask you a question about every single game? And I thought, well, if we do that, it's going to end up being a 3-hour long episode, and we can't do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and feel free to apply them to any of the games that you worked on. And because obviously, and also we're very aware when we do these episodes that we're asking you to remember quite, almost 20 years ago to when you worked at this, this is just to kind of really scare you with time there. So yes, so these questions apply to, any of the games across the series that you've worked on. And okay, so the first question is there a game that was a particular challenge to you and the art team, and why?
Every single game was a different type of challenge. It's interesting because every single game was different as well. People think you've been working on 7 Assassin's Creed games. I think I worked maybe on 6 or 7 games. And just by the way, just for the notice, when I'm senior art director means I was overseeing other AC games, even if I was not working only on the production I was making. So when I was on Black Flag, I would help a bit on A33.
Okay, yes.
So yeah, I had this role a bit. Every single game was different, and people were a bit making fun sometimes. Oh, another AC game, like I am too tired to work on a new AC. Like it was most the running gag. Oh, Raph, yeah, AC forever. For me, it was every single time a new fantastic opportunity, a new challenge. Origins was maybe one of the biggest challenges because we had to create from scratch a full country.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually we do kind of a crop of a country with a bit of countryside. We really focused on a few cities and a few hamlets around. So we knew how to make this. On Origins, we had to deal with I was saying like the dream of some people thinking that 80% of the game would be procedurally made, and we have the same kind of paradigm now with the AI, like the magical thinking, all AI is going to do everything, and you realize like problem solving is a human thing, and there's no way AI is going to replace the concept artist in my team and level design, everything.
It can't design. It can't create in that way.
Design.
So yeah,
it's just eating information, and
it's a fancy collage machine. And I think that's a really good distinction to point out because, yes, you've got credits as art director. So that means you were art director for a particular game, and then senior art director, which, as you said, that's when, because I guess then Ubisoft was making multiple Assassin's Creeds at the same time.
Yes.
That's when you're kind of overlooking the... Because I remember reading that and thinking, senior art director, surely it can't get more senior. But no, it can, and it did.
There's an example. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's also the team. It's a teamwork. But I was brand art director at some point, or senior, and we had some challenge on syndicates because the team went with the direction. It was a bit like the gloomy London, and I was like, it's weird because I know what they mean, but every time I'm going to London, it's sunny, it's beautiful. Maybe it's not the case all the time. If we have a time of day, we can have a variety of, lighting and time of days and moments, even though you're depicting London. It was maybe more like a North American way of seeing London as really polluted and foggy. And I think when you want to refresh the experience for the player and you're going to spend like 50 hours in London, maybe you want to have a variety in the time of day or moments, like even as a person. So we redid the full time of day with someone in the Montreal team helping them, and it was a a great experience because we had also Martin Chambaud doing paintovers for every single hour of the time of day. And we had like the sunrise with various colors, with the fog, the mist, and then we had like a sunny day, but also the fog. We had this variety of moments of lighting, and that really helped, I think, for the for the experience. I mean, you want to be refreshed in immersion. It's for the replayability as well.
No, and I appreciate that as someone who is in London and it's currently 30 degrees and very sunny outside and slightly struggling with it. So I appreciate that. That's a representation that I like. And yes, so another one, is there anything you wished you could include in one of the games that had to be cut for whatever reason?
Good question. I would say for Viking game, I wish we would have spent more time in Norway. Not only as a return on investment of the work, amazing what the team has been doing in Norway, but you can go one mission and straight to England and cross the ocean, the sea. And I think that we really had something amazing. The team did an incredible job making all these different settlements and towns in Norway. And I wish we'd had spent a bit more time. You know, with the Viking fantasy, you want to spend some time in their like original settlement.
Okay, and in your view, what's the most ambitious part of any of the AC games that you've worked on? So this can be kind of a particular location, a monument, even just a particular time period, and what that was a kind of particularly bold challenge to take on. What was something you kind of looked at and thought, wow, we really did that?
Yeah, I mean, as a team, there was for sure like Black Flag with the Singapore team. We did an amazing job on the ocean system, on the boarding and all this stuff. Also, we had those weather events with the storms and everything, like the change on the ocean, the collisions, and being able to board different boats. That's pretty insane. It's not. I mean, it's not on my side. It's more like a team thing, and it's. I think Singapore like really had a really important part on that. That's really something incredible and amazing. Maybe on the art production, the variety of Valhalla with all these different architectural kits, not only those grounded buildings and cities and towns, but also all the mythical worlds we have. So that was also something that was an incredible challenge, and we managed to do that in a pretty decent time, like three and a half years. Then going through the pandemic and finalizing the game remote and learning how to work remotely because that was fully new, and still managed to ship a game with not too many bugs, but we fixed a lot of these bugs with title updates for sure because it's a huge world. I was actually at the end of the production, I was just testing the game. I was spending all my time flying around the world and logging all the issues, the bugs I could see. This was not gameplay related, but mostly glitches, floating rocks, floating churches, flying stairs. Stairway to Heaven, I call that. It was in the ocean, in the North Sea. We had like a full church kit with stairs going up in the sky. It was like, is it for a mission? Is it intentional? And I was sailing my boat. I was like, say that, wow, nobody saw that. No testers saw that incredible glitch, and was like, I'm glad I found it. We're shipping the game.
I would love it. I would love it if it remained and you have to. Well, it's symbolic. It's it's. Okay, now this might be sacrilegious to ask, but I have to ask it. Do you have a favorite AC game that you've worked on, and is there a kind of particular reason why?
So I would say there's one, and it's more like a question of like a team experience, how we came along with the team. Also, I mean, like it was maybe the best experience as a team. Like it's Black Flag, like making a game on the edge of or the golden age of piracy. Such a cool thematic, and also an amazing team. Really, great people. A lot of good times. Not too many frictions, and like it's always stressful to ship such a large game with such a scope. But I do remember when we had the launch party, that was maybe one of, the best one we had, because everyone was really, really happy. There was no tension. Yeah, I mean, that was maybe one of the best human experience I had at Ubisoft. After that, I would say my favorites in terms of maybe a creative challenge. It's difficult to say, maybe Origins or Valhalla, because I love hiking in Norway. So it's there's something that really connects personally to me. But as a team, and I think the most important thing when you work at something, whatever it is the team. It's not the IP. It's not maybe not the project. It's not the money you're making. It's really the people you will be spending 40 hours with every single week. Sometimes people see more the team than their own family. So it has to be people first. Yeah.
That's so true and so wonderful to hear. And I've got one final question, which is kind of, given how far the technology behind the games has come since AC1 up to now, and also everything that you've learned and all the experiences you've had, is there anything from the earlier games that you wish you could revisit and apply the skills or the technology that we have now? Is there something you'd go back and go, oh, I wish we could have done, X, Y, Z, or something like that?
Maybe I'm getting too old and I feel like nostalgia about the good times when it was simple to make. Not too many polygons, simple lighting. You kind of have. I wouldn't say that I want to do the remake of AC1, even though that could look pretty amazing. But I cherish the time when I was working on Sands of Time. We were making buildings with 200 polygons and 120 pixel textures. But it was always, finding solutions, problem solving, how to make things look good with the cheap constraint. I would say constraints is one of the best things for creative people. When you can create with no limits, then what is the frame you have to be creative? Being creative is also because of the constraints, and that's history of art. Religious constraints would be imposing incredible piece of art, like Sixteen Chapel, all this stuff was because of the asking, the what and how I'm making it is because there's this frame of the constraints. So I wouldn't say I wish to revisit something we did with new techniques. Actually, I'm sorry to disappoint.
No, I think that's a fantastic answer. Maybe I need to reframe it. Maybe I need to bring the old constraints to the new. That I need to reverse and flip it.
That would be really funny.
Well, thank you so much, Raphael. It was absolute delight and so interesting.
Thanks for the invitation. Yeah, that was cool to talk with you. Really interesting.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching Echoes of History. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about the real history behind the Assassin's Creed games, then subscribe for more episodes. You can check out the extended interviews wherever you get your podcasts by clicking the link in the description. You should also hit the links that are floating on the screen somewhere. Are they on my face?